Welcome to Stillworks and Brewing. My name is Randy and this is a channel that's all about home distillation and brewing. So what do we got going on today? Today we're going to talk about stuck sparges and what we can do about them. So you're not going to want to miss this. But of course, before we get started, there's 5 things that you can really do to help us out a lot. Number 1, if you haven't had a chance, please hit that subscribe button, okay? And number 2, hit that notification bell so you won't miss anything. Number 3, share us with your friends. Number 4, if you like what you see, give us that thumbs up. And of course, number 5, leave a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, let's get going now. The very first question we have is, what is sparging? And we'll use this. Sparging is done in the beer world or in making spirits, you know, depending what you're doing. Okay, so let's say you have your mash tun, you got your grain, you put your grains in there at a certain temperature with water in it. You're trying to convert all those starches that's in the grain over into sugars, because that's what we want. So once that is completed, we need to wash all the grains off that we have in there. So we want to drain, we want all those sugars that we converted into that fermentation bucket. Okay, so there's a couple different ways we can do that. Number 1, they call it fly sparge. Well, let me back up just 1 second. If you're fermenting on the grains, this really don't pertain to you. So we got 2 main ways that you can do that. You could do a fly sparge where you're putting warm or hot water on top of the grains and you're letting liquid out of the bottom of your mash tun, and what it does is it just kind of flushes it out. So you put it in slowly up top and it's coming out the bottom, and that is until you get up to your 6 gallon mark. So that is one way. That's a fly sparge. The other way we can do it is what they call a batch, and that's the way I pretty much do it. I don't know, I just like it that way. And what that entails is you take your mash tun, you open the drain up, you drain it into your fermentation bucket. Once it's done, you close the valve, you put more hot water in it, give it a quick stir, and then you open your valve back up, flush that out, and you keep doing that until you get to your 6 gallon mark. Well, 6 gallons in my case. Till you get to your 6 gallon mark, and then you're done. Okay, so sometimes you will have a problem, and okay, so the next topic is what is a stuck sparge? All right, the long and the short answer is stuck sparge is when you're trying to drain out of your bottom of your mash tun, it just will not flow. Okay, and what happens is, like in my case, I got this screen that's in the bottom, or you could have a false bottom in the bottom of your mash tun, whatever the case may be, and it gets clogged up. Okay, and it will not let the liquid flow through the screen and in turn out. So what causes that? Well, it can be a number of different things, but the 2 main things I've found is, in my case, I had a stuck sparge. I was making a what was I making? A rye whiskey, and the homebrew shop that I got my grains from, it seemed like the grains were milled just a little bit too fine, and it clogged up my screen. Okay, so that can be one reason. Another reason can be that if you're using a lot of I'm gonna call them sticky grains, like oat. And if you've seen a video I did a while back on oatmeal whiskey, it was a big problem. It was something to overcome. Oats, it would just stick together like glue, and it was a little bit challenging to work with, never to say the least. Okay, so how can we prevent a stuck sparge? All right, well, I come up with a couple different ways. Number 1, if you know that you're going to have problems, like I said before with the oatmeal, I knew I was going to have a problem trying to flush those sugars out of the oatmeal. So one thing you can do, you can mix with your grains It's called rice hulls. Okay, rice hulls is just a byproduct from rice, and what it does is when you mix it in, there's no taste in rice hulls. There's nothing in it. It just kind of acts like the grains. It gives a little void in between the what would you call that? In between the grains to help so that you can flush those sugars out. Okay, rice hulls, they're very, very cheap, but they do a pretty decent job. All right, so the next thing you can do is, if I know that I'm going to be having problems in my mash tun, I got one of these big bags. It's for brewing the bag when you're making beer, and it fits pretty well into a 10-gallon cooler. You can see it's pretty good size. So you put that in first, and then you put all your grains in that, and I'll still have my screen in the bottom. And so what will happen then is, when you're trying to sparge out the grains, if it starts slowing up or stops, I can pick the bag up and move it around and get the flow going again. So that's another way to take care of that. Okay, so what do we do when we are surprised at a stuck sparge when we weren't expecting it? And so what can we do about it? Well, it does make it a pain on brew day or when you're making your mash. So one of the things that I've done is, like in my mash tun here, I got the screen. It's plugged into the bottom, and one thing that I will do if it gets stuck, I can hook a hose up to the valve and pump water and back flush. Sometimes that works, sometimes it don't. Okay, so that's one option. Another option I've done is I've taken my brew paddle and rub the edges of the screen. Sometimes that's enough to get it going, sometimes not. Okay, and if them two things don't work, let me show you. Okay, so my last option, and I found that this works out pretty darn good, is I made this sieve system up, and if I remember, I'll put a link up here. I did a video on it, so check it out. And it's basically 2 buckets. The first one I drilled holes in and made these mounts. This is a bottling bucket with the valve on the bottom. So what I'll do is I put my sieve in top of that. Take your nylon bag, your grain bag, put that in there, and so what you'll do is, out of my mash tun, it's stuck, I can't get it to come out, I will scoop up and put everything into here and open this valve up, and so it's draining the whole time into my fermentation bucket. And you can manipulate this by moving the bag, and it actually works out pretty well, and I can get it draining pretty well. Okay, yes, so stuck sparge is a pain in the ass, but you can get through it. But I would suggest to keep on hand. Get yourself some rice hulls, put them in an airtight container, keep them on hand. And the next thing I would say that you ought to have, another tool you ought to have in your toolbox is one of them sieves. I've used it a number of times. It works out fantastic, and it is extremely cheap to make. So that might be another tool in your toolbox that you could use. I hope this information was useful. Last thing I can say is thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.